Marvel's Blade was supposed to be a fresh start, a return to form for one of the most iconic characters in comic book history. Fans were excited when Marvel announced that Mahershala Ali would play the titular role, and the idea of Blade returning to the big screen seemed promising. After all, the original Blade films, starring Wesley Snipes, were groundbreaking. They introduced a darker, grittier superhero world that felt completely different from the more lighthearted comic book movies of the time. But fast forward to today, and the Blade reboot has become a tangled mess, with delays, changes in direction, and a complete lack of consistency. What was once seen as a victory for Marvel has turned into a symbol of their creative struggle. The Blade reboot isn't just a story of a failed film project, it's proof that the MCU, a once unstoppable force in cinema, may now be cracking under its own weight. The trouble with Blade started even before cameras started rolling. The first sign that things weren't going smoothly came in 2019 when Marvel first announced the reboot. Mahershala Ali was a brilliant choice for the role, but fans were skeptical about how Blade would fit into the larger MCU. The MCU had long been known for its family-friendly, all-ages approach to superhero movies, but Blade was never that type of character. He was darker, more violent, and, above all, R-rated. This wasn't just another superhero. Blade was an anti-hero, a vampire hunter with a lot of edge. Soon after the reboot was announced, a flood of behind-the-scenes issues started to surface. Marvel couldn't seem to find a clear direction for the movie. The first major change came when it was announced that the film would be set in the 1920s, a period piece that would have completely changed Blade's modern-day urban character. That idea didn't last long, and the film was pushed back, with new writers and directors taking over, one after another. Every time a new person came on board, the direction shifted, until finally, the movie seemed like it had no identity at all. Before we continue with the video and my further explanation, I want to ask for your help. I am trying to reach 250 subs by the end of the year, so I do really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out. Let's continue. What happened to the original vision of Blade, the character who stood out because he was different? This confusion reflects a bigger problem at Marvel. They can't seem to figure out how to balance their growing cinematic universe with the needs of individual characters. Blade wasn't supposed to be just another superhero in the MCU. He was meant to be a dark, mature character, free from the constraints of the family-friendly tone that Marvel has become known for. But instead of embracing that uniqueness, the studio's constant changes made it clear that they weren't sure how to integrate him into their increasingly homogenized world. The issues with Blade are just one example of a larger problem within the MCU. For years, Marvel's films stood out because they each had their own style and tone. Whether it was the space adventure of Guardians of the Galaxy or the grounded realism of The Winter Soldier, each film felt like it had its own unique identity. But as the MCU grew, something started to change. The films began to feel more formulaic. There was a growing pressure to fit everything into a single, cohesive universe, and with that came a loss of individuality. The problem became even more evident when it came to the Blade reboot. Rather than letting Blade be Blade, the film was shaped by the pressures of the MCU formula. The film was initially supposed to be about Blade, a character who was hard-edged, violent, and full of angst. But then, word broke that Marvel was considering a girl power storyline with Blade sidelined as a secondary character. Fans were furious. This was not Blade. The MCU's need to make every story fit a certain mold, especially with female-led narratives, became a distraction. Blade was supposed to be the centerpiece of his own story, not a background player in someone else's narrative. At the same time, the budget issues surfaced. A film like Blade needs a decent budget to match the darkness and intensity of the character. But the report suggested that the film was being made on a shoestring budget, lower than what it would take to make a superhero movie with Blade's kind of gritty action. This financial restraint didn't match the level of quality needed to do Blade justice. Marvel, known for its high production values, was treating one of its most iconic characters like a second-rate project. All of these problems with Blade point to something much larger. The MCU is struggling with a creative identity crisis. When Marvel started its cinematic journey, the goal was clear: create unique, compelling films that fit within the larger universe while still allowing each character to shine in their own way. But somewhere along the line, that focus started to fade. The pressure to maintain a cohesive universe has now led to stories and characters blending together, losing the special qualities that made them stand out in the first place. Blade's failure is emblematic of this struggle. The character was never meant to fit the typical Marvel mold. He wasn't supposed to be lighthearted or family-friendly. His story was always darker, grittier, and more mature. The fact that Marvel couldn't figure out how to make Blade work in today's MCU is a testament to the fact that the studio may be losing touch with what made these characters and these stories so great in the first place. It's clear that Marvel's success formula is starting to crack. The rise of Phase 4 and beyond has seen a shift away from the grounded, individual storytelling that characterized earlier films. Instead, the MCU has turned into a machine, churning out film after film that struggles to live up to the legacy of what came before it. Fans are growing frustrated as the quality of storytelling slips, and Blade's failure serves as a reminder of what happens when a studio stops listening to its fans and focuses more on brand consistency than creativity. The Blade reboot may be a failure, but it's also a warning sign for the MCU. The issues surrounding the project highlight the bigger problem Marvel faces today: losing the ability to balance their interconnected universe with the need for individual, unique stories. What made Blade great in the first place was his departure from traditional superhero tropes. He wasn't part of a team, he didn't care about fitting into a grand cosmic plan, and he didn't need a moral compass to guide him. But now, after years of delays, creative misfires, and a lack of focus, the character's return feels like a ghost of what he used to be. Marvel has lost touch with the magic that made its earlier films so exciting. The MCU may have once been an unstoppable force, but the cracks are starting to show. For Blade, the time for a true return may have passed. Fans are left questioning whether the MCU will ever get back to what made it great, or if the franchise has become just another cash grab.